Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about the end of days for the comic book industry. And I'm not blowing this out of proportion. This is not hyperbole. I really do believe that we are in the end of days for the direct market for the comic book industry as we know it. And I think death is literally on the doorstep of the comic book industry. And people just aren't waking up to the fact that this is it. This is how the industry dies. Right? And it's going to die, I think, within the next year or so, maybe even sooner than that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's going on in the comic book industry as best as I can make sense of it right now. And this is sort of a follow-up to a video I did a couple of days ago or last week talking about how the comic book industry may not survive the crisis going on in the world right now because of all the shutdowns of non-essential businesses. Here in Pennsylvania, we had several emails. I got several emails from desperate comic book retailers being like, guys, we have to shut our doors. We don't know if we're going to open back up again. It's heartbreaking to read. We're hearing stories on Twitter and other places on the internet talking about how a lot of shops are closing their doors. They don't know if they're going to open back up again. Some shops, like Lee's Comics in California, they shut their doors. And they're not opening back up again. It's over. It's done. And I think a lot of shop owners might use this opportunity to exit stage right because the industry is in decline. It's not going to get better. The direct market is not going to get better. It's a tough game as it is. And I don't think many of these retailers, if any of them, can survive a prolonged shutdown, such as what is being forced upon a lot of folks right now because of the thing we can't talk about, right? It's pretty bad. But Twitter, YouTubers are calling out the comic book publishers. And rightfully so, because this is everything that a lot of YouTubers have been saying for a while, and it's all coming to a head. And now it does seem like some of these people want to play ball. People who have been making disparaging remarks about comic book YouTubers for years, people who have been insisting on blockchains, people who have thrown shade at publishers that they deem to be alt-right or whatever other nonsense the media comes up with. Now they see the Titanic is sinking. Now they want to get on the life raft. Or they're just going to openly mock people who are telling them the truth. Now, I did a video a couple days ago, again, talking about what I thought was possibly an apocalyptic scenario for the comic book industry, and I got mocked in the comments. And now we've got Rich Johnston saying basically the same thing. Is this an extinction event for comic shops, or are comic retailers too stupid to quit or too dumb to die? And I think a lot of them are not going to make it. And we've already seen comic shops close at an alarming rate, a shocking rate over the last couple of years, especially. And it's just not a sustainable business model anymore. A lot of these shops are getting stuck with books they can't return and books that aren't selling. That was definitely a huge catalyst into how, weakened the shops have become in recent years, but, also buying habits have changed. I'm not going to say that that's the only reason. Obviously, people aren't going to comic shops like they used to. Kids today aren't reading comic books like they used to. If they read comics, they're probably reading manga or graphic novels, and they're getting them from a traditional bookseller or book fair or Amazon, something like that. Now, I have to mention, I had a friend write me on the down low and tell me that it's going to be really interesting to see how all this plays out with the comics industry in general, because apparently Amazon is not accepting shipments of comic books and graphic novels currently. Right now, Amazon is focused on trying to get essentials out the door. They're not taking on any more comic book or graphic novel or manga shipments currently. So again, we have another strike against the comic book industry, right? We do. So Nerdrotic, Gary, who I was on his show a couple of weeks ago, really cool guy, used to own a comic shop in San Francisco. And he's calling out Jim Lee for being asleep at the wheel. Now, Jim Lee was pushed into the publisher position because they got rid of Dan DiDio a few weeks ago. Suddenly just got rid of Dan DiDio. And now Jim Lee is apparently playing the violin on the deck of the Titanic. And not really saying anything about what DC plans to do to help retailers. Other publishers have come out and said that they will do what they can do to help retailers like Image, like Alterna Comics. I'm going to talk about that. I think Boom, I think IDW, a few other smaller publishers are like, yeah, we'll offer returnability. They're doing some other promos to help retailers rebound after this thing blows over. Hopefully this thing blows over very, very quickly. And it is not a prolonged 3, 4, 5, 6 month cataclysmic event for all retail, not just comic shops. But Gary at Nerdrotic called out Jim Lee and said, so far Marvel has offered discounts on some books and announced another crap book. That's true. We talked about these garbage books that Marvel is putting out. They're putting out several. They're really doubling, tripling down on 2015. Things that didn't work in 2015, they're trying it again with the New Warriors and bringing America Chavez back and the sidekicks to the X-Men and all this other stupidity that they're doing that's not going to help. It's not going to help Marvel. Diamond has made a statement that at some point they will make another statement. Middle finger. DC Comics and their leader Jim Lee hasn't said shit. RIP comic shops. Jim Lee's last tweet talking about Batman. I have to agree with Gary. They're not really addressing the issue. I don't think they know what to do. But Jim Lee insists that comics aren't going away, that DC Comics is not going away. People have been talking about that too, saying that, is Warner Media going to shut down DC Comics? And that was before all the closures, before the mandatory shutdown. People were talking about that. They're like, oh, no, that's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well, I want to bring this up because this is very important. And I think possibly maybe DC and Marvel know that they're on borrowed time and they don't give a shit anymore. They know the Titanic is sinking, okay? Because of what's going on in the world right now, and that thing we can't talk about because our channel's too small to talk about it, I guess, without getting demonetized. Warner Media is going to be even more cash-strapped. Stocks rose Friday morning. This was from a couple days ago. Geeky sent this over. They dipped and they rose again as the market continued a rocky ride. Exhibitors struggled to hold on to gains, and Warner Media parent company AT&T scrapped a major stock repurchase plan to conserve cash. AT&T is conserving more cash. They were already conserving cash, and then this shit happened, right? The world started to burn and they decided that they weren't going to do any unnecessary spending. And now the movie theaters are going to be shut down. They do have HBO Max in the pipeline, but it doesn't launch for another month or two. And I don't know if it's being pushed back now because of everything going on right now. But they're looking to conserve as much cash as possible. Jim Lee might know that DC Comics isn't going to last to the end of the year. And if comic retailers don't exist, then why bother? Why bother? Let's look at Disney. Let's look at Marvel. Disney's credit rating revised by Fitch over virus impact, right? Disney's credit score is dropping. And we're going to do another video on this, hopefully, today or tomorrow, talking about how Disney is basically having to borrow money to pay its other debts at this point. And the parks have only been closed for a week. Disney is not in the wonderful financial situation that people think they are. And you know what's going to look pretty good? They're already starting to sell off tech companies or try to find buyers for some of their tech companies they don't want, like ad tech companies. Yeah, Marvel Comics isn't gonna look very attractive, especially if the comics can't sell because all the comic shops have gone out of business. You know what? So maybe CB Cebulski should, I don't know, not be so smug on Twitter. Maybe. These decisions, I understand with Cebulski and with Jim Lee, there are corporate decisions that go above their pay grade. But, there's been kind of a condescending attitude from Marvel and DC toward comic shops, toward our friend Peter Simeti from Alterna. Now, this is really interesting. You know how at the beginning of the video, I said that some of the people who have been constantly running YouTubers and small press folks through the mud for years are starting to come around. First, we saw Gail Simone trying to extend an olive branch to people after blocking them for years. Now we have CB Cebulski, descending from on high to talk to Peter Simeti. Peter Simeti, whose books, as I understand it, are not allowed in some comic shops because they think he is an alt-right Yahtzee because of the comic book media and the nut jobs working at these media outlets. So Peter has actually had his market share diminished, right, in comic shops because of all the lies that have been told about him, about Alterna Comics, that has been in business for like 13, 14 years. Predates any of the drama on YouTube or any of that. But there's a lot of bullshit going on there. But now CB Cebulski from Marvel can descend and talk to Peter. Do you know why? I think it's because CB Cebulski knows he's fucked. He's probably going to be out of a job. The industry is probably going to burn. And people like Peter Simeti and YouTubers and guys like Ethan Van Sciver and all these people that they don't like, they're going to survive. They're going to survive, and Cebulski is going to be looking for work someplace else. So now they're going to be nice, or at least attempt to be nice. Actually, it's not really nice. He's trying to school Peter, because Peter is trying, along with Image, along with Boom and IDW and a few others, to do what they can do to help retailers, which is great. But the thing is that the comic book publishers that are really going to do the most amount of good are going to be the big two. And if the big two are like, yeah, we're just going to give you some discounts, and DC's like, I don't know, whatever, figure it out, then the comic shops truly are screwed. They truly are. So Cebulski is like, everyone here at Marvel has been working closely all week with our talent retailers and distributors and even fans around the world to make sure all their differing needs and concerns are heard and addressed in these uncertain times. But we're not going to make the books returnable. Peter Simeti, which stores ask for deeper discounts instead of returnability? Cebulski, Peter, you're a smart guy who understands this business, so you know this is a difficult time for anyone and everyone who works in the industry. We all love it, especially retailers and talent. We're taking all situations into account when making any moves. Not all will be public. Peter says, yep, that's why we offered full returnability plus trade-in options back in February 2019 to limit risk for retailers, which I think is fantastic. Because, it's hard to keep a comic shop open. And that's on top of having the most affordable price point in the industry. Yeah, $1.50, $2, good price. If these are your public moves, I shudder to think at what the private ones look like. Oh, so yeah. Meanwhile, we're looking at, even Rich Johnson has to come around and admit that we're looking at an extinction level event. We're already seeing shops go extinct, and Marvel and DC are playing the fiddle on the Titanic as it sinks. Now, apparently there's a meeting of the minds over at Diamond. They're taking a meeting about a meeting. I mean, it's so weird. Like, the government and local governments and the national government can strategize quicker than the damn comic book industry. And this is why the comic book industry is dying. Because they take too damn long to react to market changes. They take too damn long to look at the writing on the wall. The comic book industry is going to die because it's already been weakened. This is not something that happened overnight. We're talking years. The signs have been there. I would say even go back 10 years. And to fix the comic book industry, you'd need a freaking time machine. Go back 10 years and plan things differently, do things differently. And it's only, hastened the demise of the industry in the last 3 or 4 years because of stupid decisions by publishers again and again and again. And, you've got your talent out there running at the mouth, telling customers to piss off. And you know what? There are a lot of other entertainment options out there. People are happy to take their money someplace else. And they've been doing that. So, this would be very sad to see Diamond go out. But, look, a lot of publishers are stopping operations for now. Dynamite and Image are going to make the books returnable. Kudos to them. Marvel has increased discounts. I don't think that's going to help. Aspen's closed productions. Vault Comics has delayed publication of titles. There are more publishers that are not going to survive this. There are a lot of shops that are not going to survive this, unless they've already shifted into online sales, which I'm actually getting some emails from some shops I follow that said they're going to be doing more on eBay, which is good. Some people had the brilliant idea of doing like curbside pickups. I guess curbside pickups for comics, that's great. Except some states now, they've actually locked everyone in their houses. You can't even go to a drive-through, a comic book drive-through. Right? You're not allowed to leave your house unless you're going out for groceries or something. So they have to shut the comic shops down completely. And I think a good majority of them are not coming back. They're not going to come back. They can't. They don't have the money. And then you're going to see some of the smaller publishers fall off too. Vault Comics may never come back. I think you're going to see some smaller publishers just disintegrate. We've already seen Oni Press have to merge with Lion Forge just to survive. And you know what? They're not going to be able to survive in a market without comic shops. I mean, this is it. This is game over. This is the end game. The comic book industry has been snapped. It's absolutely been snapped. They just haven't done a head count yet. It's bad. It's really, really bad. You know, and I'm very sad about it. Growing up, I wanted to draw comics for a living. I had the opportunity to be able to do that for a number of years. I worked with my wife on a bunch of projects, worked on a lot of different comics over the course of like 15 or so years, a lot of that Disney work. And I actually gave up working in comics professionally a couple of years ago because I saw the writing on the wall. I saw that the industry was in decline. I saw there was no money to be made in comics, save for very, very few people who somehow got to the top of the ladder. And at that point, you jump ship and you go to Hollywood, right? But just drawing and writing comic books, unless you're a top Marvel or DC talent, the money is not there. It's never going to be there. And there's so many people that want to do it that they're doing it for next to nothing, which drove the page rates down. I mean, the industry has been in a state of steep decline for years. And just like everything else, you know, when there is a situation like this, a global crisis, anything that's already weakened is going to be taken out. You know, there's a metaphor in there because they're talking about the people who are affected by this thing, but it's the same with the comic book industry. It's not going to survive this. Just like a lot of newspapers didn't survive 2008, bookstores didn't survive 2008, weakened retailers didn't survive 2008. The comic book industry, in my opinion, is not going to survive 2020. So the question for you, if you're making comics or you want to make comic books, what's next? Because you better start thinking about that now. Actually, get yourself that time machine, go back about 3 or 4 years and start back then, because I think now it's too late. I think it's too late. If you didn't build your life raft already, I think you're going to sink, unfortunately. And it's going to hurt a lot of people, and I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.